This ends now.
You can't defeat me.
So, Ninjago has ended once again. So, Ninjago crystallized. I've made a few videos based on some of the big episodes before it kind of all released at once there at the end, with the Overlord and his return, and just the big return. It's just a big character I wanted to see come back for the longest time. And I made a few videos just covering some of that. I just was super interested, and I'll give my thoughts on that whole crystallized finale going into this video here, but I kind of want to make this kind of like a nice big video here of Ninjago and its ending and its endings, because there's like multiple endings to this whole story that I personally think anybody can choose from. And I don't want to make this any type of negative type of video. I just genuinely want to talk about the three big endings that Ninjago has had that you can choose from, and it really does seem like this big story here is at an official end for this general story that has kind of linked up since 2011. So before we get started here though, Tommy Andreasen, if you guys know him, I haven't really checked up on him too much as of late, but he was still involved in Ninjago up until crystallized, and he's always answering questions on Twitter and stuff like that, and he finally made this announcement today, I believe. He made this whole long thing saying, "I have been writing and rewriting this message in my mind for almost 2 years at this point. I wish this finds you well." So I'm going to read this real quick. Remarkable. As you are aware, Crystallized is the end of the current Ninjago era. We set out to make a season which would conclude the story and show we have been producing since 2019, but also reflected of what we started in 2011 as a whole. We wanted to bring it full circle and draw on the lore and characters from Ninjago's entire run. Crystallized did feel like an ending to the Wild Brain era of Ninjago that they started after March of the Oni, so he did make a good point there. This will also be the end of my involvement with the Ninjago series. I consider myself a caretaker of Ninjago since 2011. He's been with Ninjago now, I believe, since the beginning. You know, he's with the Hagmans and everything. He's kind of like a long stayer there for Ninjago, and it's been a long time for him. So he goes into, you know, what he's going to do for Ninjago, how he's going to interact with fans. He's going to kind of move on from Ninjago, not really talk much about it. He doesn't know what the future is going to bring. That's just kind of it for now. And Ninjago, I know they say they're going to make a new series next year. I don't know what they're going to do. I haven't focused too much on it. I do know they're going to do like a type of like a reboot type series. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe it'll be on characters we knew about already, but it's not the ninja, or if it's something fully new, something in the future. I have no idea what they're doing. Honestly, I seriously don't. Hopefully it goes well, though. I'm not going to wish them anything bad, but genuinely, I believe this big story here of the ninja that we followed since 2011 is done. I do believe that story is done. So this is, no matter which ending here I'm going to talk about you want to choose, that's up to you, but the big story overall is finished. So that brings me into my thoughts here. Ninjago has had many endings over the years, and we've had about 3. I can nail it down to 3 big endings for Lego Ninjago. You got Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu, and then you got Ninjago, just straight up Ninjago in 2019. And after Crystallized, I'm really starting to think here. All 3 endings have some really good stuff in them. Some of them you might not like, some of them didn't end as well as the others, and there's just ups and downs to all of it. So let's start out with Ninjago 2012. This is more for the OG people who were there at the beginning, and they saw the big final battle with the Overlord again in season 2 of Ninjago. It was titled The Big Final Battle Between Lloyd and the Overlord. It was supposed to be kind of initially Lloyd and Lord Garmadon, but this ended up being the Overlord at the end, and he took over Garmadon's body. We all know this big final battle. It was referenced in the latest series finale, Crystallized, with the Overlord again. So this was the big first ending. You know, the rise of the Spinjitzu master. Lloyd has obtained the ultimate power as the Golden Ninja. It's extraordinary. Okay, the way he is able to unlock this final power and save his father from the darkness. I personally, now I'm going to go ahead here and give my opinions on each one. when I saw this finale, it was initially at the beginning, I was kind of sad because like I had just gotten into Ninjago that year in 2012, and it's like, wow, it's already over. But I also see that 2012 really nailed it, okay? I don't see too much conflict on people's opinions on the final battle ending where Lord Garmadon has been saved from the darkness. The Overlord is defeated and destroyed, apparently, and everything is all swell. The ninja are good. They saved the day. Lloyd saved the day, and Garmadon is living happily ever after with his family. I do believe... Now, I do really, really love the stuff that came after this season, and that's what I'm going to get into in the next finale, but I do think this was the most well-done Ninjago finale out of all of the finales, out of all the seasons and stuff like that. This is the most well-done series finale, if you want to call it that the show has ever done. I think it ended perfectly, absolutely perfectly. They nailed the story. The Hagman brothers, they did a really, really good job. I think it was incredible. And the final battle, there was just so much emotion within this whole season, and I can't get enough. I rewatch this stuff all the time. Maybe it's the nostalgia talking, but I just really think they nailed it. The next series finale for Ninjago, and this is the one I personally overall prefer as my ending. This is March of the Oni. This is season 10 of Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu, also known as the last season made under Will Film, which I believe I heard that Will Film is now going to no longer exist. I don't know much about that, but that really sucks because they did a great job on Ninjago. But season 10, it was like a 4-episode special, and it was the wrap-up for the whole season 8 and season 9 arc with the Sons of Garmadon and the whole, First Realm stuff. They brought in the Oni, these whole new creatures from another realm, the First Realm, and they were the ultimate threat that the ninja were going to face. Personally, I don't think that the Oni were necessarily the greatest threat the ninja have ever dealt with. It just seemed like they came in really quickly, and it just seemed like a very rushed series finale in the end there, where they gathered up at the monastery and they just kind of defeated them pretty quickly. It was pretty quick. But I choose this as my finale because it still wrapped up basically everything from 2011 up until that point very well. This finale managed to connect everything from Will Film. It connected the 2011 to 2019, I believe this one came out. It connected everything perfectly. This was the perfect connection and ending to the Will Film era of Ninjago. They went on to do a lot more stuff afterwards, but that was under a new type of storytelling, I guess you could say. And once this ending happened, I'm like, this is it. Like, this is my ending for Ninjago. They brought the golden weapons back. They're at the monastery again. They were celebrating all of Ninjago. The intro of the season was like a reflection of all the different battles they've had. And then Lloyd ends up meeting the first Spinjitzu master, I would assume, in like a departed realm type of situation there. And he ends up making the choice to go back to his friends and not go with the first Spinjitzu master. When you have a scene like this right here, and then you end it with this, I'm going to be honest, this is my personal ending. I really, really love how it ended, especially like within that last few moments in the finale. Now, it was a little rushed. It wasn't perfect. March of the Oni is certainly not a perfect story, but I think it ended in those last few moments very, very well. It felt like a true ending. It felt like a true series finale, and it said the end at the very end of the episode. Oh, and by the way, the last episode is called Endings. You can't get more finale than that. So personally, okay, this is my personal opinion again. I have to say that so many times because there's going to be people who really like Crystallized, and I liked some of that too. I think Ninjago March of the Oni, the last episode ever, Endings, is the perfect ending for Ninjago if you want to include everything that happened after season 2, which is some really incredible stories. And I can't exclude that stuff. It was a beautiful time for Ninjago. You know, you had all that stuff with Master Chen, Moro and the Ghosts, you had Nauticon, you had the Hands of Time, you had the Sons of Garmadon, you had all that stuff. The pilot episodes with Lord Garmadon and the Skeletons, the Serpentine. That was the big wrap up here. I really truly believe that. You had some major nostalgic moments within this, and it just felt like it wrapped up neatly. It wasn't the perfect ending, but it wrapped up really, really good, and I'm very happy as this being the ending to the Ninjago that I was very familiar with. But Ninjago did go on to make more. We ended up having the Wild Brain era of Ninjago. It included a shorter time period of episode time frame is like 11 minutes about, and they went on to make like, I don't even know, what is it, 4 or 5 seasons more, and they had some really good stuff. I didn't like some of the earlier ones. I think some of the last 2 seasons I really liked, especially Crystallized here. They really went on to do their own thing. You know, they kept the monastery as the ninja's base. They went on to do their own thing, and in the end, they kind of connected it back together with the Will Film era. And once again, the original Ninjago series, the Will Film era of Ninjago, connected with the Wild Brain era of Ninjago. And I feel like it was really, really well done for a big chunk of it. And the Overlord himself came back. That can't be, there's no bigger connection to, you know, the original type of Ninjago than this. You know, this is a callback to the beginning, basically, with Season 2 and Season 3. The Overlord is back. He has made his 3rd return, and I gotta say, every scene they did with the Overlord, even though I didn't really like how they ended up defeating him, I think they really, really nailed it. It was a really ominous, incredible story with the Overlord. They introduced so many interesting plot points with him, and there were some cool scenes, too. You know, he had Master Wu in the Overlord. I think this was the standout battle for me. It wasn't in the final episode, but this is the whole final battle with the Overlord and the ninja and Crystallized was kind of drawn out through like that whole last like half of the half, I guess you could say, the last whole bunch of episodes there. That whole final battle kind of, you know, remained in. The Overlord was attacking Ninjago. You had this really standout scene between Wu and the Overlord, some great dialogue, some great action scenes. It really, really was. Crystallized introduced some really interesting concepts, especially with the Overlord and just what they could do with him, I guess. I don't think they're going to do anything else with him, but it just introduces a little bit more mystery to him, I suppose, rather than just kind of being there as the big bad guy that they had in Season 2 and 3. But Ninjago, they introduced this whole new power. They kind of do this every season. There's this whole new power they have to have and unlock to ultimately save the day, so it didn't really feel special to me personally. They unlock these dragon forms, and they combine the golden weapons to essentially create like a golden energy dragon that was full of their elemental powers. Each one of their elemental powers ended up becoming a big elemental dragon to defeat this monstrous Overlord Crystal King version that the Overlord had, you know, created for himself. And the ultimate final scene here was the dragon defeating the Overlord, just kind of blowing him up. That's what I don't really like, is they introduced a lot of interesting concepts with the Overlord, you know, that he implanted the darkness within the Great Devourer and how he kind of morphed Lord Garmadon's rise and fall and whatever. He was orchestrating the whole thing. That was a really interesting plot point they kind of tossed in there in the final few episodes, and they didn't really do much with it. After they blew the Overlord up, they didn't really explain much more. Like, the Overlord essentially could come back. With the idea of the Overlord coming back whenever there's conflict, he could just come back, right? They didn't really explain what they would do if he came back again. It's like they kind of blew him up again. He always blows up. But despite the ending of the Overlord just kind of unceremoniously just kind of getting rid of him, and then the whole last half of the episode really just a big ending, I think they did him well, but I don't think the whole series finale in Crystallized, personally for me, feels like a great ending for the show. They did some stuff in these final Crystallized episodes that just kind of felt like it dragged out a little too long. They did a little bit of weird stuff within the city and some side characters that just didn't feel as important to the story as, let's say, Lord Garmadon or Lloyd or Master Wu and the Ninja, or the Overlord. They did little side stories within the big battle, and that was kind of a common trend within the Wild Brain era, so it makes sense that they did it, I guess. But generally, I wasn't a fan of it, and I don't think they necessarily made it feel like a true wrap-up to the entire story of Ninjago perfectly. I'm not saying March of the Oni did either, but I feel like March of the Oni had a better ending feeling than Crystallized did. Crystallized almost ended in a way where it felt like it was still like another season was about to come and they were about to deal with another threat next season. You know, that's basically how it felt like. It didn't feel like a series ending to me. But there was still some really, really great stuff within it. The Lord Garmadon stuff was kind of weird, but I really liked the Overlord stuff. I liked some of the concepts and story they added to him. They made his character much, much more complex. They did a lot cool stuff with the ninja, Harumi. I did like some of that stuff. But overall, like, it just didn't feel like a true ending to Ninjago for me. It was a good ending for the Wild Brain era, especially too, though. They brought all those villains back together. They brought Pythor back. They brought some old villains back, but also brought all those other old, like, new villains back together that they brought in since 2019. So it was like an ending of two eras in Crystallized, and I think that was pretty cool. But my personal ending will have to be March of the Oni. That's my personal choice. But there are 3 Ninjago endings out there for different generations of Ninjago fans to choose from. That's my personal thought. I wanted to bring that idea to everybody else. Now that the Ninjago story has kind of wrapped up and we don't know what they're going to do next year, there's 3 big endings that anybody can choose from. And I personally choose March of the Oni. I think it was a good ending to the Will film era of Ninjago, and just that story, it felt like a good ending to it all. There's Crystallized that, you know, wrapped up basically all of it in a way. And then there's the OG Ninjago ending, the original initial ending that they were going to do for Ninjago with the final battle. That one is a little bit more like kind of, it's not really the ending. A lot of people will not consider that the end because they had so much good stuff afterwards. But I do consider the final battle for Ninjago the best done ending. I feel like it was the best told story in the final battle season there. There's lots of good and different things in each one, and I think I'm very curious to see what a lot of other people choose. I think a lot of people will choose Crystallized because I think Crystallized and the Wild Brain era did bring a lot of new Ninjago fans in throughout the years here, these past few years. So there will be a lot of people who love the Crystallized ending. There will be some people who like the March of the Oni ending, especially, you know, it says the end at the end of the episode, and there might be some OG Ninjago fans out there who just still really, really feel attached to that final battle ending. Who knows? Maybe that's their ending for Ninjago and everything else was kind of weird for them. There's a lot of different opinions out there, and I'd love to hear yours, because that whole Crystallized ending, I had to get that off my chest, all my feelings on it, and I just kind of wanted to talk about Ninjago's overall ending and my feelings on the big story overall. And I'm interested to see what they do next year. I don't know what it'll be. Yeah, Ninjago has essentially ended, I believe, and it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.